Welcome to Investories, a podcast about real stories, real estate, and taking real action. Join hosts John Hooper and Kyle Robertson as they talk investing, mindset, and taking that first step. We all have a story. What's yours? The Investories Podcast.
Booyah! Welcome to the Investories podcast with me, John Hooper, and No Coast. Welcome to the Investories podcast with me, John Hooper, and without my co-host Kyle, who's off traveling again. Not sure where he is or when he's coming back, but hopefully next week. So really cool, interesting show this week. We have Jessie Vasquez, who's the owner of Airventure Hosting Company. Airventure Hosting Co. is all things midterm rental, and there's a great learning resource there. Tons of videos on YouTube, and he's the host of the Big Break podcast as well, worth checking out. And Jesse's super knowledgeable on midterm rentals. He's also a humble guy. So he's very successful, but really knows his field and really knows how to share that information. We really dig into the midterm rental space. We talk about pitching and how to connect with travel nursing agencies and insurance agencies. We talk about how to grow and scale midterm rentals, how to analyze whether something's a good or bad midterm rental, and really how to get set up for success, including talking about his masterclass that he hosts via Airventure Hosting Co. So really loads and loads of actual information if it's a space you're really interested in, as I am. So yeah, without further ado, here's Jessie. Welcome to Investories, Jessie Vasquez.
Yeah.
Hi, Jessie.
That's me. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I got your name right.
You got it. Yeah, John,
Sweet.
You got it. It's hard to mispronounce your name. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's pretty. You can tell I'm British just by the name, right?
No, not at all.
I get Hopper a lot, which is always a bugbear. But
yeah, I would just call you. I'm just going to call you Hopper from now.
No,
on.
you can call me Hoops. That's what a lot of people call me.
Hoops. All right, we got it.
There we go. No, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
So Jessie, you're in the midterm rental space, and we connected through your content that's out there. And I do recommend, if anyone's looking at midterm rentals, to go and look at the YouTube channel and the podcast that Jessie's been on. So much good content, and it's right out there, and really useful stuff. I'll put some links in the show notes. Jessie, what I'd like to start with is kind of your background, your philosophy, how you've kind of got to the midterm space, kind of via the short-term rental space. So could you kind of lead us through that?
Yeah. So I grew up in a family that of immigrants. My mom is not from this country, and my dad was from this country, and they happened to meet each other. And I remember as a kid, my parents would always tell me, invest in real estate, invest in real estate, invest in real estate. But I really, John had a really bad kind of mix with real estate as a child, because my parents were very Catholic and would give a lot of people chances after chances after chances. And I remember as a child really thinking, like, is real estate really cool? Like, is it really that great? Because my dad says it is, but yet I'm sitting here on a Tuesday afternoon after school in the back of a minivan driving to the courthouse to try to evict people from the property that they were staying at. So I had that was what my kind of like childhood real estate mindset was around, is that, things don't work out with real estate. So as I started aging and growing into the space, I ended up picking up a property in 2015, and I was going on the same journey that my dad was mentioning to me about, which is real estate, right? And short-term rentals, midterm rentals, that's all real estate. Fast forward a little bit, I was in the healthcare industry. I worked in the healthcare industry for 17 years on the business development side. And I worked with the clinicians, and I worked with travelers, and I started noticing such a huge need for individuals, nurses specifically, to get into the midterm rental space. They were staying in hotels, they were staying in motels, they were staying in places that I would never imagine a nurse staying. And these are like crappy hotels. So I thought to myself, here's an opportunity where I can get paid up front, right? Unlike my parents. And I don't have to go to court, potentially, possibly not, because I'm getting paid in front and full. And since I worked in the business development side, I realized, like, holy crap, I can just contract. Everything in the medical field is contracts, no matter what you're looking at. If you're taking a new job on, if you're working for somebody, if you're a doctor, it's all based around contracts. So I took that same philosophy and said, hey, I'm in a contract with this hospital. I want to get all their clinicians that are traveling. And that's how it started. That's how it all kind of started moving forward for me in that space. I lost your sound.
There we go. I come from a technology contracts kind of job, and so I work with contracts a lot and bidding and getting proposals locked down and stuff. For those not au fait with that kind of world, what does that look like? How does one get up to speed to be able to connect with these agencies and sell to them?
Yeah, so my first suggestion would be to take my master class. I'm just kidding. No, watch all my YouTube videos, and I break down on like Lemming's terms how to get started in the space. So connecting with the local hospitals, talking to travelers that are coming into the space. If you have any family members that are connected, I mean, that's the best way to really kind of get into the space. But again, my goal is not to be another property listed on Furnish Finder, which is where all the people go that are landlords to go rent their properties. My job, or my philosophy, is to go after the contracts, which, like I was mentioning, is part of the world of healthcare. Every clinician that comes into travel has a contract. It's just how it works. They're all different. They're all built different, just like we are as people. And they're all unique in their own ways. So for me, that's what really kind of set me apart, is I'm not just an average brick on the wall with Furnish Finder. I am going after the bigger fish. That's how you get paid more. That's how you build an actual sustainable business that's going to be around. And we don't have to rely on the clinicians to actually book our spaces. We're relying on the agencies to provide us those particular clients that they have.
I really like that. That's awesome. And what kind of route can people connect? Is it like LinkedIn? Is that a powerful tool, or referrals, or?
Yeah, I mean, all those are powerful tools. I think, again, going back to what I was talking about earlier, if you are a clinician, or if you work or know somebody that works on the floor, just talking to those clinicians that are coming in the market right now, that's a good way to get into it. Just reaching out, going on Facebook groups, asking about clinicians that are coming in the market, just asking for, who their recruiter information is. That's another good way to do it. But I mean, like I said, you don't have to pay for anything on these ends. You could just literally just ask, word of mouth, joining a Facebook group and ask. Then, there's travel nursing Facebook groups like literally all over the place, for every city, almost everywhere. And if there's not, start one, and then you get to be the catalyst that maybe that's a question you ask, is you're looking for housing. I just gave everybody a lead right now. Create a Facebook group. The 3 questions you're going to ask are, who are your name, where are you from, where are you trying to locate? Actually, we'll make it 4 questions. Who's your recruiter and what agency you're working for? Boom. There's your business right there.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a great insight. And I think what I found doing the podcast actually has just been the power of connecting with people, and everyone knows someone, and probably one step out of your social circle, someone who's either a travel nurse or a clinician, or someone who can tap into that network. So one of the things you mentioned around the kind of Furnish Finder piece, and this is I've looked at midterm rentals and run numbers on Furnish Finder, which is stuff that isn't rented out currently. So in terms of analyzing a property, how does that work, or how do you go about analyzing whether something's a good midterm rental?
Yeah, so I have the same lens as people with short-term rentals would have, right? The thing with Furnish Finder and all these other accounts is that people will list what looks like grandma's house that was inherited by a family member, and then putting it up online with these like old couches and these beat up places. And yeah, you could do that. But I think the way that the market is going, if we're intuitive and we put our ear to the ground and we see what's happening with local government, with city municipalities changing the short-term rental laws, if you get into the midterm rental space now, you're going to be decades ahead of everybody that's wanting to get in when they get banned. There's more short-term rental regulations. So I don't know. I just feel like right now there's such good opportunity in that. And I think I might have missed the question that you were actually initially asking.
So no worries. I think that's, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the analyzing. So again, I look at everything kind of like what a short-term rental would look like. So I look at, if I'm looking at a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, is it near a hospital? What level hospitals are nearby? And there's level 1, 2, and 3s that are like, these really high-level hospitals that have a lot of people coming in and out of them. So I look at that. I look at the population. I'll ask the hospitals myself, like, how many travelers do you guys have that come in a year? I'll go on Indeed.com and just type in travel nurse, medical professional, Anaheim, California, and just see who's hiring in that market and what that looks like. So kind of the same concept that we as real estate investors, when we're looking and investing in a new market, how many people are there? What's the job growth? Yada, yada, yada. I'm looking at all that stuff, but specifically for the healthcare sector. So you just like micro-analyze just what the healthcare sector is looking at. Are they building new hospitals? Are they adding new wings to hospitals? How many beds are in the hospital? Is there new oncology departments coming? What's being built in this market? Where is the trajectory heading in the next 2 to 5 years? So I think, and how many colleges there are specific for, for nurses there? Is there one? Is there three? There's a lot of different ways to kind of skin a cat, and I don't know who the hell came up with that term because it's weird. But yeah,
it is weird. No, I think that's really interesting. So, do you base your numbers on a short-term rental analysis?
I do somewhat. So I piggyback. I usually take about a 15% variance that, and if you look at long-term stays on Airbnb, most people will put a 15% decrease in the price, right? They're going to give you 15% if they're going to book for what people they call long-term stays on Airbnb, right? So I just put that into context. So again, you're going to make a little bit less money when it comes to the travel medical professionals, especially the agencies. And we're not talking about the individuals themselves. I get a lot of people that send me hate mail that I'm trying to rip off nurses. That's not the case at all. I'm actually going after the agencies. I don't want to have to deal with the individual nurses. This is more of a business to business model as opposed to the specific nurses that have per diem rates and all that stuff. So yeah, that's not the concept.
So one thing, and I delved into this on I think a few of your videos and a few other sources, which is there is speaking specifically about travel nursing, or I guess any kind of travel medical, there's a per diem rate where someone can essentially go independent and take a daily rate to pay for their accommodation. Then there's the agency rate that would be, they would arrange all of the logistics of where to stay and all that good stuff. So in terms of the split between those two groups, is there a awareness of kind of how many take the per diem and how many don't?
Yeah, more people take the per diem. They do, because it's tax-free. They're not having to pay taxes on that. So they're getting 5K, 6K, 10K. I think I had somebody on my YouTube channel, right? A nurse that was actually in my class as a student, and I asked them the same question. And some of the rates they're not getting what were during COVID. People were getting 10K bonus, sign-ons, all kinds of stuff. And now it's a little bit different. But yeah, more people go the per diem route. But again, the goal is to go after the agencies that are specifically handling those contracting part. And a lot of times they're doctors, they're specific type of nurses. There's a big sector when it comes to that. Again, I think that a lot of times people overlook it, or they'll try calling one or two agencies and like, oh, no luck, and they give up. It's like, yeah, of course you're not going to be able to get anything if you only called 5 companies. Like, you got to call 10x that, and then we'll have a conversation because you've tried 50 companies. There's a bunch of mom and pops everywhere, John, that are popping up that are recruiting agencies. It's not just these big giant companies like AMN Healthcare or True Staff or these large scale national agencies. There's a bunch of mom and pop places. In fact, one of the best agencies that I have that's connected to me is a little place out of Utah, and it's a mom and pop agency where they pay really well, and they only deal with travel physicians and their families being in new spaces, and that's it. And they pay for literally everything: the car, the house, per diem, food, all that stuff. So there's so many different routes. Again, I think it's just kind of, you have to just get out there and make the calls and start connecting with people, and eat the dirt in a lot of ways. It's not an easy grind.
Do the work, I think, is what we say that. I like that.
Yep.
Yeah, getting out there and calling people and finding out who those people are and finding out who the connectors are is kind of what I've found to be super productive. So in terms of those kind of mom and pop agencies and connecting to them, what does a perfect property look like? What are they looking for?
Yeah, an agency.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Or me. Yeah, an agency. Okay. Well, first off, I would say that if they're looking for something that's safe, because nurses are typically women, not all, but most are women, and they're traveling either alone or with family members or with other individuals. I work with a lot of travelers now that are traveling in groups, and millennials traveling together. So a safe environment, like an A class, B class neighborhood, That's typically what agencies are looking for. Accommodations, if there's like, the hot tub or, a lot of times you can sell yourself a little bit better if you have those kinds of things, or you're close to an actual hospital, walking distance, bike ride, things like that. A lot of agencies love that. Like I said earlier, when I talked about the short-term rental space, I will have the best looking property on Furnish Finder so people can actually see it. And then I will sell that to an extent where the nurses, when I'm talking to an agency, they actually have like the home away from a home. And when you're talking to these agencies, the doctors and the nurses, they get to look at what your property looks like before they actually stay there. So if I'm up against another property that looks like grandma's house, of course they're going to pick my place over that. And again, going back to the concept that I talked about earlier, I still think it's super early in the game with midterm rentals that eventually more people are going to get involved in it. And we see a huge influx now. So in 2 years or 1 year or 3 years, when more people are regulated out of the short-term space, and the way for them to make money is, guess what, is going to the midterm space. So if you're already solidified your foothold in that market, you've already kind of put your fingerprints down, your footprint down, and you've been able to like build something there, and then all these other people coming in, you've already set your market in a space that is, you're the go-to person. So
I like that. And in terms of property type, is there like a sweet spot for like 2-bedroom apartments that are shared, or 1-bedrooms, or studios, or 3-2s, or?
Yeah, for me, I like the bigger spaces. Going back to what I talked about earlier, I like to have a place where I can fit 1 or 2, doctors in, or nurses in, or 3 doctors and nurses, or their family and their dog. So I just like to have bigger spaces. And I also do short-term rentals. I don't just handle midterm. I'm in the short-term rental space too. So if I'm in a place that has seasonal, where we kick ass during, like, say, summer peak season, I'll switch to short-term rentals during that time. And then as we go into the colder seasons, the slower seasons, I'll switch into midterm. So I don't really have any valleys with my, peaks and valleys. If we're looking at the stock market, right, or the housing market, we see the ups and downs of what the market looks like. Well, us as investors, we don't want to have that, right? We want to be like very even keel up top. So when I do this model, it really helps me keep my cash flow pretty consistent and not change too much, and also be able to serve the people that are coming in and capitalize on the the short-term space.
So essentially you can kind of map the bandwidth to what you need it to do in the season. So for instance, peak summer can be short term, and then the agency can pick it up for the winter period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're always going to have a space that's booked. I mean, if you pick up a place that if I got a property right now that I put as a midterm rental and I get it booked today, I'm going to talk to recruiters, I'm going to talk to agencies. They're going to reach out to me and say, hey, what's your availability? Oh, I'm booked. I'll have availability again in November. So it really gives you time to like figure stuff out, and that's just typically how it is. But again, a lot of it's just connections and agencies and building reports. It all goes back to sales. Everything that you're doing when you're connecting with these agencies is sales, literally everything.
So speaking of sales, and one of the things that's interesting is it's not just the travel nursing, travel doctors, it's also connecting with insurance agencies. Can you talk to me about the kind of differences in dealing with insurance agencies, and also the differences in terms of pitching to them?
Yeah, good question. And that's a question that I rarely get asked, which I don't know why people don't ask that enough. But so the pitch is really, really the same. It's the same in a lot of ways. Again, we're selling our unique selling point. Why does somebody want to use us? How we can actually connect with agencies, how we're connected with the community. So it's pretty much the same. The pitch that we're going to have specifically with the agencies, it's the same. It's the same in a lot of ways. We're just changing the context from travel medical professionals to folks who have been displaced from a fire or floods. And insurance companies, John, they actually pay better than the actual agencies. Right now, I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's being rented for $8,100 a month. And my mortgage payment is like less than $2,000. So, I mean, and that's a 6-month being extended already. And the family was actually in a hotel, 2 separate hotels. The insurance company was paying like $1,300 a month, and they're saving money by renting it to me directly. The family can sit down, eat meals together, which in a hotel room, I mean, they're not very big at all, 300-400 square feet max. So the family was really excited to be able to sit down and break bread together, have meals together again, and not be in a hotel. And they're in the same city that they happen to lose their property. So yeah, I think it's a win-win if you're able to do that. But pitching is the same for both the agencies and the insurance companies.
So, and in terms of insurance, is there differences in how they operate? So, for instance, I'd assume it's very much, a house fire one day then needs rehoming the next, and kind of how does the level of kind of availability work around that?
Yeah, it's really fast. So like, yeah, if something happens today, then they're looking for a place, in the next 2 weeks. So a lot of times these folks will go into a hotel right away or go stay with the family while they're trying to find a property. It's not as easy as you think for these insurance adjusters and relocation specialists to find property for these individuals to stay in. And not only that, again, going back to design, these insurance agencies, they give the guest or the potential guest or the person in that situation, here's the properties we found, you pick. So again, going back to design, if we have a place that is very standard, cookie cutter, I mean, who's going to want to stay there, right? So you have to think about that as you go in, because you're competing with all these other people in the market. And yeah, your price point might be a little bit higher, but again, it's like, it goes back to the person that needs the housing. They get to choose where they're staying.
And what's your approach to design? Because I know you're into the short term as well, and eye-catching designs, and something that's appealing is really interesting, and it seems to carry through the midterm space. What is your process or philosophy or approach?
Yeah. So I'm really big into analytics. I look at what the market's doing, how many houses there are, what they're looking like. I mean, I'll allocate. I can use AirDNA and see what a boho property is looking like in LA. I'll see what they're earning. I'll look at a mid-century property, see what they're earning. I'll look at a farmhouse style and see what they're earning. So I take the concept of numbers that have to do with short term and I translate that into, your average day midterm rental operator. So I really look at the top earners. I like design myself. It's always been something that I've loved. That's one of the things that actually brought me into real estate. I love like Eichler style homes, mid-century style homes. It's just, I probably should have been alive in the 50s. I don't know. Maybe I was, because it's so nostalgic to me, but in another life, right? But yeah, so I just love design. So I look at those things. I really break down what the earnings are per property. I can look at a 2-bedroom that's boho themed, that has a little bit of architecture to it, design, and I can look at just a cookie cutter, brand new build boho. Is there a difference between those two things? Is there something that stands out? Is the numbers translate to everything that's put across with that same type of, design element? So I really look at it through a different lens when it comes to what's the best approach and what's the best approach in my market specifically.
I think that's really interesting. I'd not thought of design like that in terms of a process of analysis of competitors. And yeah, we put our short term together and it was a lot more organic of like, okay, this works. This is neutral colors, but with a little bit of pop and a few accents here and there. And it's gone well, but I think I will take a look at that process.
Can I tell you something real quick on that?
Of course, yeah.
A lot of people with the short-term rental space and even midterm rental space, they design on what they like. And at the end of the day, we're not that's not the business we're in, unless that's what you want to have a vacation home or whatever you want that. We're in a business of serving other people. That's what hospitality is, right? So you put together something that mass people love. And for me, as an investor, I want to get things that people love, but also are going to generate the most income. So I kind of marry the two together. And that's what kind of the recipe that I've been using for many years now to do well in the market.
I think I fell over that a little bit because we didn't go too into our own tastes, and we kept it quite mountainy, neutral, modern, bright, and accent colors and stuff. So I don't feel I'm not scared and worried now.
Yeah.
But I like that idea, and that's a really good tip to be able to go in and kind of analyze those kind of pieces and figure out what something should look like. I think that's a really good lead in.
Definitely.
So in terms of getting started, and I say this as a homeowner near a large hospital and someone who's thinking of moving at some point, what's the easiest way to get in, and probably what's the optimum way to kind of start in the midterm rental space?
Just arbitraging. I think that's where there's a lot of people don't have the funds, especially with the interest rates going up right now and things like that. The affordability of housing is going down. I think arbitrage, which is where you rent somebody else's property, is probably the best way to get in. It's the best way to get cash flow. But if you're looking at long-term wealth, obviously buying is another thing. So, I mean, now the properties that I'm purchasing now, I'm still getting over 30 to 40%. I just said that twice. Return, cash on cash returns if you do it the right way. So yeah, I mean, even with, again, the prices right now, if you have the funds to be able to buy something, I would really urge that. But again, the whole point between arbitrage is to build funds, build capital so that you can eventually purchase or eventually scale. That's why I started arbitraging, is to scale quickly, because I had too many people reaching out, these agencies reaching out. I didn't have enough properties. So I rented from a friend, and then another person rented, and then all of a sudden I had landlords that were just handing me properties, like literally like, hey man, I don't know what to do with this, like, can you take it? Or hey, I don't want to rent anymore to you or to other people. I'd rather rent to you because I can walk through, my property is going to look just as clean as it did the day that I got it, the day that you got the keys, if not better. And yeah, and that's how you grow your portfolio. That's how you grow your network, because at the end of the day, our network is our net worth, right? And the more
I
people
like
that
it.
you rub, yeah, the more people that you are able to serve and help, and even if that's landlords or people that have 50 doors, you're able to make them feel comfortable with the property, they're going to eventually hand you over more. So in my opinion, it's one of the easiest ways to start, but eventually leads you to the path of purchase.
I like that. The arbitrage thing is really interesting, and it's yeah, slightly scary. Really, I hadn't thought of it. Now I'm a homeowner and an investor, so that's kind of interesting. I like the fact you grew your business using arbitrage.
Mm-hmm.
What was your learning process for kind of getting arbitrage set up, or kind of working through that process? Did you do a formal learning or just dive straight in?
Yeah, I just dove straight in. I mean, I just kind of used my concepts that I already had that worked. And I think that's where a lot of the other, landlords were just like, oh, okay, this guy's already has property. He's scaling. He's already in the healthcare division. He already understands it. He knows the market. And, that's kind of, I think education before compensation is one of the most important things that, if I can tell anybody right now, like, really educate yourself in the market and what you're doing. Keep your ear to the ground on what's happening, so that when you talk to these investors and these landlords, that you actually feel confident in what you're saying, that resonates with them, and they're going to want to give you property, and they're going to feel comfortable giving it to you, even if it's your first one. So I think it's really important to really educate yourself in that specific space, so that when you do have those conversations, it's just fluid and natural and not pitchy.
No, I think that's really important. I think this is a good place to ask you about your masterclass. So you run a course on this. What does that look like, and what can people expect from it?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up. So the masterclass is 3 months long. I used to do it live, where everybody would jump in, and we would do the class live, and it was only 4 weeks at that time. But I realized that a lot of people coming in were brand new, and that they were just getting through with their property. So we extended it to 3 months, and we do weekly calls. All the pitch decks that I used to use before, that I still use now, you guys can hear, or they can hear, the classmates can hear, the mentees can hear. I do live calls. Like, if we're on a group call and somebody's not able to hit a recruiter, or they're having problems with it, I'll actually call the recruiter myself live on the phone with everybody on there to hear how I pitch, and have even landed some deals for our students in there. And I think it's just really, I break down, John, the process, so that it's simple, but yet it's still has a really heavy busy business essence to it, where we're looking at this as a business. This is not just a one-off, one-time midterm rental. This is like, we're growing our business. And eventually, the way that I teach it is that you can take the class and eventually teach somebody else how to do this, so that they can operate the business, and you do only things that you're uniquely qualified to do. And I think that's what every business owner today needs to learn, how to delegate tasks and only do the things that they're specifically uniquely qualified to do to grow their business. They need to take themselves out, right? Work on the business, not in the business. And I think eventually the class is kind of formulated in a way to learn it, and then to eventually transition it over. So, and then just being around the like-minded peers, like I said earlier, your network is your net worth. Proximity is power. You have people that have the same mindset that you do, that have the same drive, that want to do things. We have a private Facebook group where we actually share recruiters' information. I just posted insurance adjusters' information today for all of California, and somebody's gonna be able to literally get a booking for 6 months just by what I just posted online today. So, and this is a communal aspect where we're helping each other kind of grow in the market. And I try to steer everybody away from having that scarcity mindset that, oh, if they take it, I'm not going to have it, which there's plenty of opportunities for literally everybody, which is why I talk about it on my YouTube channel for free. And, I want to make sure that people are able to, get into the space and really learn it and have another way.
No, I really like that, and I think to that point, one of the things I've done over the last year is invest in my education. So a few different Bigger Pockets courses, and now I'm doing a seller finance course, and just being with people that are also doing the same thing and growing that network is it's worth the fee alone. So I've connected with some amazing people. A guy who builds hotels out on the East Coast, for instance, and just he emailed me this morning. It's like, wow, I'm now getting emails like that, right? So if you're if you're worried about courses and money and stuff, and worried about deploying the money to pay for a course, reach out to Jessie and ask him about it, or speak to people that are already taking similar things and making those connections. Because as Jessie said, it is all about networking and connections and building that those kind of conversations and connecting with those like-minded people.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. I think the network is probably one of the most important aspects of it all, is, being able to connect with other folks and, being in the same spot and the same journey as they are, you know what I mean? So that's just a human connection, is just being able to adapt with people and bigger pockets, all those things. Like, I feel that education in yourself, that's, educating yourself in a specific industry, but it's also for yourself, because you're going to grow, whatever it is that you're around, whoever you're around, they're going to help you build you in whatever market you're in. So tremendous opportunities, whether you're taking, my course or any course. It's just good to be around like-minded people, for sure.
Yeah, and I went to a recent San Diego ADU meetup, which Jessie was supposed to be at and didn't show up.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I wasn't supposed to be there. I was thinking about it. It was a long drive.
It's a very long drive. I'm teasing you, but just connecting with those people, super positive, super productive, and just making those having those conversations. You're not a friend's barbecue boring everyone with your real estate talk, so it's kind of cool, right? You can geek out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can be around like-minded nerds and just talk about real estate, and you don't feel like you're going to get an apple thrown at your head.
So Jessie, one other question I had for you was around financing. So we've talked about arbitrage, great strategy. In terms of people that want to buy and invest in midterms, so I bought my short term on a vacation loan, and as such, I have to occupy it for 2 weeks a year. What kind of products can people use to buy a midterm? Is there any kind of clever strategies or products or?
Yeah. You can use the same thing. So I bought a property with a second home loan, just like you did a vacation home loan. DSCR loans are important too. Like, I'm an individual business owner now, and I don't have a W-2. Well, technically I W-2 myself, but I quit my job last year on July 13th, and didn't think ahead about not what that would look like. And so yeah, I had to get creative with purchasing property. I partner with a lot of people now. Like, we'll joint venture and buy property together. I also co-host, where I co-host short-term rentals for other people. So that's another way to get into the space. There's a lot of ways if you solidify yourself with, and this is a good thing for everybody to listen to right now, especially if you're going to be going to meetups and stuff like that. If you're able to have success in the midterm rental space, and then you could duplicate that, and then you go to somebody for the third time and ask for money to like build on a project together, and you can show that you have, a pro forma of profit, you're going to be able to make something happen. Because investors, when you go to these meetups, they want to know things like that. They want to know what's happening. You have conversations. The next thing you know, you're going to be doing a deal with somebody, or you're in one of these classes and you do that. The next thing you know, you're going to have a deal put in front of you. And you don't even necessarily have to have your own money to do this. It could be just like, hey, you manage this, and maybe put a little bit of skin in the game, or you get the contracts, and the next thing you know, you have a freaking giant company, and you just build real estate, and you're on the note, and you're able to build a substantial business over time just by being able to duplicate the successes. So I think that's kind of like a really important thing for everybody that's listening now to think about, because I feel like that's where the market is heading. We're in a market that's going to be dominated by professional operators, and if you're not a professional operator, even in the short-term space, you're going to end up not being around the next 5 to 10 years, because the professional operators are going to dominate this industry, and everybody else is going to not be around. So I feel like I said earlier, with the midterm space, like if we talk about in the baseball terms, like we're just getting started. We're literally just chalking the field. That's how early we're adopting the midterm rental space. It's not even, the game hasn't even started yet. So right now there's a lot of opportunity for us to get in the space, especially before everybody from the short-term rental area or arena gets canceled due to the politics and all that other stuff. So there's just tremendous opportunity in this space right now.
That's awesome. Jessie, I think the other thing I think people would like to connect with you on is your podcast. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So the podcast, it's called The Big Break Show. It's on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all that stuff. And the concept of that actually, John, came from we obviously want to talk about short-term rentals, but I love like music. I'm into a lot of music, and I'm into a lot of like skateboarding, like California culture kind of stuff. And I love business just in general. So we kind of had the idea of like the big break being like we'd interview, professionals, real estate, short-term rental people, and we would just talk about what their big breaks were, how they were able to kind of maneuver through life and become successful in whatever they're doing. And they all have very common traits with real estate professionals and business owners. So I just that's where the concept of it's really a real estate podcast, but we kind of bring in a little bit of other stuff. But yeah, that's the Big Break Show.
Yeah, after listening to this and giving us a 5-star review, please go and check out Jessie's podcast. It's really good. I've listened to a bunch of them, and lots of good actionable advice, which is really cool. Jessie, if people want to get hold of you, what's the best way to reach out?
Yeah, Airventure Hosting Co. on Instagram. You can just type in Jessie Vasquez. I'm on LinkedIn. You guys can catch me on there, Jessie Vasquez as well. There is an imposter right now on Instagram.
Yeah, he followed me. I was really flattered.
I know. I was flattered too. I had somebody I'm not flattered because somebody sent money to this person. So,
oh God, that's terrible.
Which is not good at all. And in fact, now I think I should start some kind of capital company to get money from people so that I can fund more real estate deals. But, but yeah, you get Instagram, Jessie Vasquez, Airventure Hosting Co. Facebook, same thing, Airventure Hosting Co. And yeah, I'm that's me on there. I'm not an imposter. I'm me. Nobody else can have this lisp, John. You hear this lisp? This is my lisp. Nobody else can copy that.
I didn't notice it till you pointed it out.
Yeah, I can't get rid of it. I've been seeing a speech therapist now for 40 years and nothing's working.
Hey, it's working. You're doing well. And yeah, thank you so much for all the sage-like advice. Jessie Vasquez, thank you so much for being on Investories.
John, thanks, buddy.
So, Jessie, you own Airventure Hosting Co. What can you talk us through that business?
Yeah. So it's a short-term rental property management agency, design company, and we're actually midterm renting people's properties now too. So if you have a property that is, you're trying to switch from long-term to short-term, we'll go in and look at what the potential earnings are of that property, how much you'd charge. We charge 25% to manage properties. But if you don't want to have anything to do with it and be more of a passive investor, we can literally take that property, design it, get it up and going, and list it on Airbnb or midterm rent it, depending on the actual agency. And John, I'm going to give you a little bit of insight on some of the back end stuff that's happening right now with Airventure Hosting Company. I'm training folks now that I've had in my classes before to be like little salespeople, where they can actually say you have a place in Anaheim, I can get you a contract in Anaheim, and then boom, we just get your place linked up to it. So I'm actually working on the back end right now, and hopefully that takes off. But a lot of stuff happening with Airventure. We're really pushing forward to be, again, we're a professional agency, but actually going a step ahead and analyzing markets in a different way, like we talked about today in our interview.
I like that. I like the unique kind of tranche of midterm and short-term focus, rather than, I have a place in Big Bear and we get a lot of traffic from the large hotels, the large holiday vacation rental places, and it just leaves me a bit cold sometimes, especially some of the horror stories. So I like the personal touch.
Yeah. And again, like I said, the market is heading this way in the midterm rental way, and I think that as we adapt, you could be in the a flyover state and have a lot of opportunity, not even realize it. So it's just kind of doing the research and seeing what's out there.
Thank you for listening to the Investories podcast. We all have a story. What's yours? The Investories podcast.